Good evening, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests.
Good evening.
Well, it's great to be back on the lecture circuit again. It's getting a little bit rusty here. So I'm about to present to you my second installment of my series on fear. Some of you were present for the first one that I gave, where I talked about the debilitating aspect of fear, especially for those of us, some of us sitting here who had the fear of public speaking when we first came to these meetings. That fear can be paralyzing at times. But I'm here to talk to you about the gift of fear. I want to allude to this book. I'm going to allude to this book a lot in my speech. A very, very, very smart man, a man who was a security professional wrote this book, and I recommend it for everyone. I used to make a required reading when I was working for people who worked for me. And I'm going to allude to this a lot during my speech. It's a very compelling book. Ed alluded to some things that I'm going to talk to in my speech. He talked about senses, your senses. And most people think of, when you think of your senses, you think of your five senses. The sense of smell, taste, touch, hearing, and sight. And we have no problem paying attention to those particular senses. The sense of taste. If we have rotten food, we're not going to eat it. We're going to just push that aside and not eat it. If something's hot or something's sharp, we don't go near that. We're not going to touch it. If something is piercing, ear piercing, we're going to cover our ears so that we don't hear it. If there's a skunk that just sprayed, we're going to move as far away as we can from that skunk. And sight. If there's something that we don't want to see, generally we close our eyes. So we have no problem paying attention to those particular senses. But we all have a sixth sense. We all have a sixth sense. We women like to refer to it as intuition. Guys refer to it as gut feel. That's something that time after time we tend to ignore. Now just think, you're walking down a dark street. Some of us have been in this type of a situation. So I want us to just think back to those times when we were walking down a dark street late at night. And all of a sudden we hear footsteps coming up behind us. Now, a lot of us, some of us, we just keep on walking and try to ignore those footsteps. And they get closer and closer. And we never bother to turn around to see what's coming, to see what's behind us. How about this one? You're on an elevator late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, you just got back, and you're very tired. You got in the elevator. And just as the door is about to close, someone jumps on the elevator. It just gives you that little thing that makes the hair stand up on the back of your head. Do you get out of that elevator? A lot of us don't do that. We tend to just push it aside and just keep on keeping on. I can tell you a lot of horror stories about people who stayed on the elevator and didn't pay attention to those little hairs sticking up on the back of their necks. Now, what keeps us from taking action when we have a sense of fear or a sense of danger? It's called denial. In this book, Gavin de Becker very astutely refers to denial as the powerful and cunning enemy of a successful prediction. Imagine ignoring a meal that makes you gag. You're not going to do that. You're not going to keep shoveling food down your throat if it makes you gag. We shouldn't be ignoring these potentially serious situations. We have to acknowledge that we live in a violent society. We expect others to keep us safe. We expect the police to keep us safe. We expect the doorman to keep us safe. We live in a building with a doorman. We expect security guards to keep us safe. But as Mr. de Becker says, the security guard employment pool gave us Son of Sam, gave us John Lennon's Assassin, gave us the Hillside Strangler. So we can't always depend on the security guard to keep us safe. I want to tell you about a situation I was in where I was on an airplane. This is right after 9/11. And a gentleman got on the plane just before the doors closed. And he was speaking a foreign language as if he didn't know how to speak English. And he had a number of bags. He put some up on the top bin. He put some under his seat. He was all over the place. And he sat down in his seat. He was on the middle seat just across from me. And just as they're about to announce that we're pulling away from the gate, he says, no, have to get off the plane. Not feeling good, not good. The flight attendant says, no, you can't get off the plane now. He made such a ruckus that they had to finally stop the plane, and they had to let him collect his things and get off the plane. Now, after he got off the plane, I looked at the people around me, they looked at me, and I said, I rang my call attendant button, and I said, we cannot go anywhere until you account for every single bag in that upper bin, and you make sure that all of those bags that are around that seat are not filled with explosives or something else. I made them tear the seat up that he was sitting in, tear the cushions out, and made them look and make sure there was nothing left there. Now, I was the only passenger who said that. Everyone else was quite content to sit there and let the plane roll away with this very suspicious situation going on. We have to start speaking up. It's up to you to keep yourself safe. You have to follow your intuition. Follow those gut feelings. What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if you got off that elevator? You have to take the next elevator? What if you crossed the street when you're walking down the street at night? What if you decided to cross the street or stop and take a look at the person that's walking behind you? So what if it's a priest? What does that do? It means that you've listened to your intuition, and if it turned out to be someone that wasn't a threat, then that's fine. But too often we ignore those situations, and the situation does not turn out correctly. There's heavy-duty consequences for ignoring the signs. So I'm just going to read off the back of the book here, very short. Mr. De Becker says, true fear is a gift. Unwarranted fear is a curse. Learn how to tell the difference. Thank you.